Okay, so this week we're talking about Chapter 4, the listening process. We've already talked about being aware of your communication, verbal and nonverbal messages. This is the fourth principle. I did post a video on Facebook for you to watch on Tuesday, and hopefully you noticed that wasn't me at my best, and I did it on purpose because I wanted you to really be able to critique it for good and bad. I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't, I wouldn't have given me an A. So you're supposed to identify the different barriers to listening, what I could have done as a sender, what you could have done as a receiver, to make sure that you got that information, and we'll be talking about that a little bit. But one of the first things that I did talk about, or the only thing that I did talk about in that video was the listening process. Now, there's a big difference between hearing and listening, and the book talks about the difference. And hearing is the physiological process of decoding information. So basically, you hear everything. Well, for most of us that have the ability to hear, we were born with the ability to hear. Some of us weren't. We have to work a little bit at it. But if you were born with the ability to hear, it's that physiological process of noises going through your eardrums, vibrating, and then sending messages to your mind about what it is or what to look at. Now, the listening process is more intricate than that, because what it does is it doesn't necessarily take any concentration to hear things, but it does take concentration to listen. So, hearing is the first step in the listening process, because when you listen, the first step is to select. Of all the things that you hear in the world that's going on around you in your environment, you get to decide what is important and what is not important to move on to that next step of attend. And when we attend, we focus in on that message, and then we try to understand it, which is decoding that information. Where have we heard it before? Do we recognize what's being said? And then we try to remember it, commit it to our long-term or short-term memory. And then that way later, we will be able to respond to that information. So that was the gist of what I was trying to get across to you in the video. Some of you got it, and some of you may not have got it. Some of you just needed to be reminded today. So that's why I went over it real quick. And then now we're going to move over to what are the barriers to listening. Okay? Now, the book talks about two of them. Do y'all know what they are? One is called?
The processing rate.
Right. Information processing barriers. And the other one is called?
Information overload.
Well, that's part of the information processing barriers.
Receiver apprehension.
That's also part of the information processing barriers. Barriers of?
Time
and
place.
Okay, and we call those context barriers, right? So there's two different types of barriers that the book talks about. And this is the first one, okay, the information processing barrier. The book talks about our ability to process information. Now, can we listen faster or slower than people talk? What does the book say? Okay? Faster, right? We a lot of times know what people are going to say before they even say it. And again, I would say the closer that you are with that person, the more you know them, you can already fill in the blanks of what they're about to say. So sometimes our mind has time to wander off because we can already fill in those blanks. Today, you already know I'm going to talk about Chapter 4 because I had already prepared you for it. So your mind can be going in and out of daydreaming, but still you'll get the gist of it because you already have it in your mind. So that's one instance of information processing barriers, because we hear and we anticipate words faster than they're being said. Another one is information overload. We are constantly inundated with information from different types of people trying to talk to us at one time, our cell phones going off, text messages, email, and we have to decipher what it is we're going to pay attention to and what we're not going to pay attention to. Because you might be here in class, and yes, you're here to listen, but at the same time, your cell phone may be going off, or somebody's going to be meeting you afterwards. So all of that, you have to figure out what you're going to pay attention to and what you're not going to pay attention to. And that's what we call there the information overload, because it's too much for you. You know how you get your email gets bogged down with all that junk, and you just rather just delete it all than to try to sift through it? That's information overload. The next one is receiver apprehension. Now, I would say if you were more like an analyzer, you may fall victim to this receiver apprehension. These are people that are afraid of receiving the message because there might be something that they have to do with it later, or they might be afraid to receive it because they might not understand it. So we all have different reasons for not paying attention, but that is also also, it's called an information processing barrier because we're choosing to not listen to what we need to do. And then the last one is called shifting attention. We are constantly, like I said, inundated with different modes of communication that people want to communicate with us. And our ability to move from one subject to another and still get those messages and understand them well, it's harder if we can't shift attention accurately. Now, statistically speaking, what does the book say? Who's better at shifting attention, men or women? Women. We are typically better multitaskers. Now, I'm not saying men can't be multitaskers. I'm just saying, statistically, they're not as attuned to it. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for that. Why might be a reason that women are better multitaskers than men?
They like to change the subject.
Okay. Maybe they like to change the subject. Okay. What else?
I think it's just programmed.
How? What do you mean programmed?
Like, well, I know like moms and stuff, they have to be like taking care of the kids, plus having to wash or clean or do whatever they have to do. It's just
go, 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 go. Okay, and again, I say, and I agree with that, we're socialized as women. We need to be able to take care and manage all of these different duties. And I'm not saying this is always the case, but when boys are raised, your job is to get a job and make money. Now, that's not necessarily the case. Now, it's everybody's job to go make money and still take care of the house. But, you know, if that's how we're socialized from when we were little, well, we're going to be practicing it every day of our lives. So when we get older, we're going to be good at it. If men were always taught to be focused on one thing, then that's all they've practiced their whole lives, and that's what they're going to be good at. Okay? Now, it's not a negative or a positive, it's just something to realize. So there are plenty of women that cannot shift attention. And there's a lot of men that are good at shifting their attention. We just know that there are things that get in our way to process that information. And so these are 4 ways of the information processing barriers. Now the context barriers, there's 2 of them. Time and place and external noise. When we're talking about time and place, there is a time and a place to have certain conversations, right? It would be very difficult to have a lecture or a discussion about listening in the sub or in the cafeteria when everybody's walking back and forth, eating, there's all this kind of disruptions. So you have to choose the appropriate environment in which to communicate certain aspects. Just like if you're having, and some people choose public places to have private conversations, but a lot of times that doesn't work because you can't have those, people won't say what they really feel because they don't want to be embarrassed. So you have to make sure you choose appropriately the time and place to have certain conversations, to have certain topics. If you're going to talk to your kids about a particular topic, you know, you might not want to do it in front of their friends to embarrass them. You might do it in private. You know, think of the times that your parents have talked to you. Did it embarrass you or not? And possibly you didn't want to listen to them because they were saying it at a wrong time and place. And the last one is external noise. This is anything that interferes with the ability to communicate. And when we talk about external, think of the things in your environment. Okay? Distractions, people coming in and out, cell phones ringing, somebody talking next to you, somebody sleeping. You know, all of those things can be distractions to keep you from listening to your message. So, we have to figure out where are we messing up with these barriers and where does it mess us up in the listening process. And then we can figure out how can we identify them, overcome them as a listener, but also as a sender of messages, as a source, how can I make that message clear to you so that you can understand it.